Paris, October 13, 1307. We are officially entering the darkest, most dramatic phase of our secret society's arc. Today, we're looking at an organization that reached the absolute pinnacle of its power, only to be completely wiped out in a single morning. It's a wild story. Before dawn, picture this. Jacques de Molay is fast asleep in the Paris Temple, the massive fortress palace of the Knights Templar. He's about 60 years old, and he is the Grand Master of an organization that literally operates above the law. I mean, they answer only to the Pope, they pay zero royal taxes, they hold fortified houses in basically every country in the Christian world. Heck, just 2 days prior, he was a pallbearer at the funeral of the French king's sister-in-law. So he has absolutely no reason to expect an arrest, no reason to expect anything but a totally normal morning. And then everything changes. Before the sun is even up, the doors burst open. King Philip IV's soldiers just pour in. And this wasn't some isolated local raid either. Sealed orders were executed simultaneously in every single corner of France. Every Templar property, every farm, every fortress hit at the exact same moment. It was a darn raid executed with ruthless military-grade precision. King Philip IV had been planning this operation for 2 entire years in total, absolute secrecy. Not a single Templar had been warned, not even Jacques de Molay. Thousands of men arrested in a single morning, in the day of the week for this massive coordinated attack? A Friday. Yes, this exact political massacre is the real documented origin of the Friday the 13th superstition. Millions of people feel a slight unease on that date every month, and it all traces back to the single morning of violence 700 years ago. The king wanted their total destruction, but he didn't get everything. Because the night before the mass arrests, 18 ships vanished. The entire Templar fleet berthed at the Atlantic port of La Rochelle completely disappeared. The ships were never found. It left this massive, gaping hole in Philip's otherwise flawless operation, and it left Jacques de Molay facing 7 years of unimaginable psychological torture. But hold on. Before we get into what happened to de Molay and his men in those prisons, and before we talk about where those ships went, we need to actually understand the empire de Molay was running. So, let's flash back to the year 1119. The sprawling order Jacques de Molay now commands, it started in Jerusalem with just 9 men. 9! They were so poor they famously had to share horses. Their original super humble mission was simply to protect desperate Christian pilgrims traveling the dangerous, bandit-filled roads of the Holy Land. But look at how this builds. Over time, they accidentally became the world's first international bank. You see, pilgrimage and crusading were incredibly expensive and super dangerous. Carrying a bunch of gold across the Mediterranean was practically a death sentence. The Templars solved this with a total conceptual revolution. Step 1, you deposit your funds at a Templar preceptory in London. Step 2, you get a coded document. Step 3, you travel safely and just withdraw your funds at the Templar treasury in Jerusalem. They completely eliminated the physical movement of money. So de Molay inherited an order that had accumulated vast wealth and basically become Europe's most dangerous creditor. In fact, King Philip IV of France was catastrophically indebted to them. And that massive debt? That is exactly why he targeted de Molay and destroyed them. Which brings us sharply back to the night of October 12, 1307. Seriously, where did those 18 galleys go? Philip IV fully expected to seize the Templar treasury at La Rochelle to wipe out his crippling debts. But when his royal officers arrived, the harbor was completely empty. No ships, no treasure. And there are endless theories about this. Did they go to Portugal? Honestly, this is the most historically grounded idea, since King Denis refused to suppress them and actually reconstituted them as the Order of Christ. Did they sail to Scotland to join Robert the Bruce? It sounds incredibly romantic, but there's zero documentary evidence. The Americas? Totally unsupported. The devastating truth? We simply do not know. The treasure evaporated into thin air while de Molay sat rotting in a dungeon. Now, since Philip didn't capture the treasure, he desperately needed absolute justification for seizing their other assets. He needed confessions of heresy. Enter Baphomet. This was a fabricated idol, varying wildly in descriptions, used by inquisitors as a leading question during extreme judicial torture. To break Jacques de Molay and his knights, the inquisitors used the brutal reality of the strappado. We're talking about suspending men by their arms bound behind their backs and attaching heavy weights to their feet. They used starvation, sleep deprivation. They extracted these delirious, conflicting confessions about spitting on crosses and worshiping a cat or a severed head. The men broke entirely because the pain was just unbearable. Even Dumoulin cracked.
For centuries, history only recorded the public burnings. But in 2001, researchers made a massive, real game-changer of a discovery in the Vatican's secret archives, the Chinon Parchment. It actually proves that Pope Clement V privately investigated and absolved the Templar leadership of heresy in 1308. He found the evidence totally insufficient, yet publicly, he bowed to the French king's pressure and let the whole process continue. He let them burn.
Let's slow the pace entirely right here. March 18, 1314. A scaffold in front of Notre Dame. Jacques de Molay has now been locked in a freezing prison cell for 7 agonizing years. He is a 70-year-old man. He is dragged out before a massive crowd to hear his final sentence. And he's offered a deal: accept life imprisonment in exchange for maintaining his false confession. All he has to do is stand there, accept the lie, and he gets to live. But he doesn't. He looks right at them and says, "The order is innocent, the confessions were false." Standing right in front of the cathedral, before the royal officials, he raises his voice and recants everything. He publicly states that he lied because he was tortured and afraid. He chooses undeniable truth over a cowardly survival, knowing exactly what this choice means.
Philip IV is absolutely furious. That same afternoon, de Molay is taken to the Ile de Javiot, a small island in the Seine directly facing the cathedral. He demands to be positioned so he can look at Notre Dame as the fire is built around him. Guys, this is an act of sheer human dignity. A man who watched everything he built destroyed, making one final, absolute stand for the truth. But as the flames rise, he screams a final, chilling message. He curses King Philip and Pope Clement, vowing they will stand before God's judgment within a year. De Molay burns on March 18th. Just 33 days later, Pope Clement dies. 7 months later, King Philip is thrown from his horse and dies. The timeline is exact. It is an absolute chilling historical fact. Jacques de Molay died on March 18, 1314. The order he led had been founded 195 years earlier by 9 poor knights trying to protect pilgrims. In 2 centuries, those 9 knights had become a bank, a navy, a diplomatic service, and an international empire. And the whole shebang ended in a fire on the Seine, with an old man telling the truth. But the Templar name did not die at all. It is everywhere. They left a permanent cultural scar. They shaped the whole concept of international finance, indirectly funded the Age of Discovery through the Order of Christ, and literally gave us a superstition that millions still observe today. It really shows the profound cost of building something worth destroying. So you've seen what happens when an organization operates above the law in the medieval world. As we wrap up day 58, get ready, because tomorrow we move forward in time and across geography. We are leaving 14th century France and heading straight into 19th century Frankfurt.
Thank you for joining me for day 58 of this journey. Day 59 is going to be massive. We will step into the living room of a family that operated entirely in public, putting their name on the door of every bank they ran, the Rothschild family. We're going to strip away 2 centuries of conspiracy to reveal the terrifying, incredible history of what they actually built. It's a story you simply cannot miss. See you then.